Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your main host, Kevin L. Powers, but I love to bring people together and be my co-host for this show. So therefore, I brought two of my favorite people here to discuss one of my all-time favorite horror movies. Today, we are going to be discussing Stephen King's The Mist. Although we should not even call it that, we should call it Frank Darabont's The Mist. And to talk about this movie, I have Philip Bray and Dave Watkins. Now, these are two of my all-time favorite hosts who are going to be joining me discussing this, dissecting it, and maybe venturing into a couple of multiverses as we do it. So, I want to thank you both for joining us today. How are you guys doing?
Good.
I'm good.
I want to go into the MCU multiverse.
We're doing the Stephen King multiverse now.
Kind of like they did with that Castle Rock show briefly. It's kind of going kind of good.
Well, I still need to watch that. I haven't watched that yet. Huh.
Yeah. It's a little disappointing that they canceled it, but it was also disappointing watching it because it was never fulfilling enough. But it was kind of a cool idea. But it's kind of I don't know. It might be a better rewatch. It has a good cast in it for sure.
All right. So I'm not gonna tell everyone the reason why I think this is one of my all-time favorite Stephen King adaptations, other than the fact that director Frank Darabont has not done a bad adaptation of any of Stephen King's works as of yet. I do want to know what your impressions are of this movie before we delve into it deeply. Let's start with you, Philip. What do you think?
The Mist, mostly, I don't know, I'm here and there with it. I wasn't, like, obviously I'm not in love with it as much as you are, Kevin, with it, but I do, like, kind of like with everyone, like, the ending is probably the most iconic moment of the movie. That I think everyone still remembers that ending a lot, which we'll talk later about, but that's the part I really appreciated. But other than that, for me personally, it was an okay movie.
Okay, how about you, Dave?
I read the book. It's a short story, and was it Night Shift? I believe is what it was in. But it was a longer story. Was it? Is it not? I believe it was.
It's
Night
not
Shift.
a novella. It's a short story, but it's a longer one than like a 7-page short stories that he did a lot of back in the day.
It was longer. I think it was in his novel called Night Shift that has Children of the Corn in it. There could have been in another one, but it's been a long time. But I like the short story. It does
Dark Forces. It's in the Dark Forces anthology.
Dark Forces. But like Philip, I don't like it as much as you like it, but I have a better appreciation for it now after rewatching it. The first time I saw it, I think I was a little taken back by a lot of the things I actually appreciate now, like the handheld documentary like look at the film, which I used to have I used to really not like that back when I first saw it. So that kind of bothered me, but it doesn't. I think it's actually a very cool aesthetic now. So that and then I did like the special effects too, since they're very computer animated. I used to have I used to really not like that sort of thing, even though there's some mixtures of practical special effects in there too. But now that's the only way they could have done this, and they don't bother me anymore. I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, I can watch it, and I think the ideas that are happening in the movie are cool enough, and it is creepy enough that I can pretend like that CGI spider is a fucking real spider. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, other than that, I really even from the first time I saw it with those caveats, I did like the acting. I think the performance of the cast, and it's the ensemble cast is very, very nice work for everybody. They kind of put a lot of intensity into their performances. Most people will really like the ending. I'm kind of, the first time I watched it, it was different than the book. So that's always a good thing when something happens that you're not expecting, but it is a bit of a downer of an ending that kind of messes with your head. But at the same time, I see why they did it, but I don't like it as much as everybody else because it kind of like makes you walk away from the movie feeling like shit a little bit.
All right, so Dave, I have to ask you this first. Did either one of you see this at the theater when they originally came out?
No.
I didn't see it at the theater, and I probably would have liked it more had I seen it at the theater. I saw it on I rented it, I think, on DVD or something like that, and watched it on my on the TV at my house. So
Did you?
it probably
Yeah.
had a better.
Well,
This time I watched it, on the rewatch, I do have a 4K version of
that's
it.
what I was about to ask.
And I watched it on the biggest screen I have available in the house, and I was like, it looks terrific. There's even a black and white version of the movie as well. Which when you watch the black and white version, I don't know which one I like better, but we were talking about it a little bit before. But at least like the monsters look a little better in black and white. But like I said, that everything was cool in color too. So I don't know.
So
Frank Darabont did say he originally wanted to do it black and white, so that's an interesting thing that they have it in black and white. So that would, just him wanting it in black and white makes you think he shot it in that way a little bit, but maybe that's what he says anyway.
Yeah, he says that, and that's one of the reasons why we had the black and white version, considering that the movie. If I remember correctly, and I know Philip, you probably looked at the fucking how much it made at the box office, but it wasn't like a huge box office bonanza because of the diversive ending. I think after the first week it came out, it probably turned a lot of people away.
So I have the Wikipedia page pulled up, and it was a budget of $18 million, which Frank Darabont said they were on a tight schedule and a small budget, and it made 57.3, which is an impressive number for that size of a budget.
Yeah, I mean, usually with those numbers, it was a I know it was a critical. It actually was like, even with the ending, like it was like mostly a critical like success too. Like it was a box office success and a critical success.
I don't know if you call it critical success. Keep in mind that you're still looking at, I'm assuming.
I mean, it's a 73% on Rotten Tomato, which again, that's a good. It's not splat. So.
Even though I hate Rotten Tomatoes, I don't ever listen to anything those idiots say over there, dude. That's like listening to the dumbasses on TMZ, and I don't care if they know I said they're dumbasses on TMZ. They're dumbasses on fucking TMZ. I can't stand
coming for you, man. But in that type of ending, though, which we'll eventually get into saying what it is, though most people already know, it was kind of fairly popular. The kind of twist ending in a way. It doesn't completely make the movie like a Sixth Sense. It doesn't make the whole movie go, oh, holy shit, but it does end in a way that you don't expect it to end.
Yeah, and this is the ending that Stephen King keeps saying that he wished he had written for the story. And keeping in mind that him and Frank Darabont, this was their fourth collaboration.
They did the Shawshank Redemption and
the Green Mile, and
Boogeyman.
They did his first one was Boogeyman, which was the woman in the woman in the red room, or the woman in the room, I can't remember. It's a short story that Stephen King he did for Stephen King first, which is actually really good too. I just can't remember what the hell the name is to save my life. The thing about this, because I saw it actually the weekend it came out. And the audience, there was a very small audience for this when I saw this. It was a very diverse film when I saw it. This is why I asked about the box office, because
you mean divisive film, not diverse.
Did I say diverse? I meant divisive.
Yeah, it's not very diverse. It's a little diverse, but it's a little diverse.
Oh, it's diverse, all right. We have Andre
Braugher, yeah.
And that's the thing is, I was a huge. I God bless his soul since he's passed away. But I've always been a huge fan of Andre Braugher, and
you see, he's also in another Stephen King adaptation, the Shining remake with Rob Lowe in it, the miniseries.
Yeah. That was good. I actually like that remake too.
Yeah.
That was not bad in my opinion. Some people don't like it, but I tend to like it. And I don't always like all of Stephen King's stuff. I think either people get it or they don't get it when they're making his stuff. But I think Frank Darabont gets into the characters when he's adapting Stephen King stuff. And that's what I think is one of my biggest draws for this, because in addition to being a monster film for me, it's also a character film.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's also something that people don't really pick up on as much as now. They probably did, but when it came out, this is why I went to ask you how much it made, because I don't know how much it made domestic versus how much it made foreign, or if you're just looking at a combined total. Because when I originally watched this, I don't remember this movie being a box office hit at all. I remember it being a movie that just kind of came out, got some critical praise, but everyone hated the ending. Everyone I know hated the ending when it originally came out, because it was and so therefore it became this weird movie that the critics liked, but audiences hated the ending. It's like the rest of the movie was fine, but they hated the ending because it was such a downer ending. And that's one of the reasons why I love the movie, and why when I was watching it in the theater, I loved the ending, because it was something I was not expecting. I had read the book too, several times, and listened to the audiobook as well, right after watching the movie not that long, because they had, what's his name? Shit. Fuck, the one hillbilly guy who goes to the dark side. Oh shit, I can't even think of his damn name now. William Sadler. Does the voice, does the audiobook. I thought that was very funny of him doing the audiobook.
I guess so you want to go over kind of, I'm sure everybody knows, you want to kind of go over the plot of it.
I always wait for you guys to go over the plot, and I just fill in the holes.
Well, no one knows what's going on at this point, Kevin.
Also, to answer the box office question, Kevin, so the movie made $25K domestically and then $31K internationally.
Yeah, see, it did, and you got to keep in mind that when people are looking at box office over here in the States, 25 ain't shit next to a budget of 18.
Well, clearly from the theater you were sitting in, there's two other people in there, so that was
yes. And I went opening weekend. The thing is, Stephen King adaptations were on the down. Like they weren't hits anymore. People didn't go. Stephen King's name on the film didn't get people into the seats. Unfortunately, I've always enjoyed watching the Z-grade horror movies based on his work, as well as the high-profile stuff now. Like he's anything with his name on it now is really doing well.
It kind of comes and goes. Yeah, I mean, like he'll like kind of go to made for TV for a while, and suddenly he'll come out with something like It will come out, and suddenly he's like, Stephen King's hot again, and we're gonna go make some like high budget movies, but
remakes now.
Yeah.
So The Mist is about, it's kind of similar to The Fog, where this mist comes rolling in to this town, and they're all in, most of the action takes place inside of a supermarket. The main character, played by Thomas Jane, goes to the supermarket, and then he is trapped in there with a bunch of other people, and that's kind of the setup of the movie.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of it. There's some explanation within the movie about what the mist is. There's army people there, and they were doing it. It's implied they were doing some kind of experimentation. They originally had a scene at the top of the movie that took place in the army facility where there was something escaped from the movie, and Frank Darabont, on the director's commentary, he said he was having dinner with Andre Braugher, and Andre Braugher asked him, he's like, Frank, do you really need that scene at the beginning of the movie? And he said, and that's all he said about it, but it kind of planted the seed in his head, like, do we really need it? And of course they didn't need the scene. It starts off at Thomas Jane's house, where he's painting a picture of the gunslinger, the Dark Tower from Stephen King. He's got the Thing poster in there. I guess he draws movie posters. So.
Yeah, he draws movies posters, and then of course it's inferred that this huge storm that comes through does something to the military base and accidentally opens a hole to, as they like, the characters like to say, parallel dimension that seeps into our world via the fog. And then over the course of the movie, you see different creatures as the characters encounter them. And of course, you have I don't want to pronounce her name the wrong way, Mrs. Carmody, played by the amazing Marcia Gay Harden, who fucking knocks it out of the park in this movie. Is this religious, or seen as the town religious nut, and everything she says now seems to have something to back it up. When you get a whole bunch of people who are scared in one location, all hell breaks loose, and people start to lose their sense of decency, their sense of shit, I wish I had the right words that Laurie Holden's character says. Because she's the character of reason.
But yeah, so I guess what you're going for though is she. You got two different parks that end up happening here. You got the religious lady who thinks that they need to sacrifice people to the beings outside and they'll leave them alone, and you got which none of this is ever said that it's wrong, because it's all left up in the air whether she's right or wrong. And then the other character, Thomas Jane's character, which the audience more readily identifies with, he's just trying to see the situation, survive it. But then you got this religious lady who's putting voices into these people's head, and they're kind of becoming like two different type of one voice versus the other. And the biggest problem is she won't shut up, and it's like you get people in a place like that, and you start saying weird shit and putting things in people's heads, especially people who like William Sadler's character, who are easily influenced by something like that,
Well, let's also add in the fact that there is the science element to this with the Andre Braugher character, who can't believe anything anyone says, even if it's right, staring him right in the face, because he can't prove it scientifically. When you got to remember, he go after the first death, the bag boy, and they take him back to the back to show him the actual limb of one of the creatures. He still can't believe that, because he can't believe that something like that could actually exist in the world, because it's not scientifically possible. He's a lawyer. Everything has to have a reason. Everything has to have logic behind it. And I think that once his character and his followers end up getting killed when they venture out into the mist, it's left with the religious nut, a better word to say, religious nut, and then the more conservative guy who really just wants to get back to his wife, and protect his family.
But ultimately these. Yeah, go ahead, man.
What?
Yeah, no, I thought so. But I think ultimately though it doesn't, it leaves it open for both of them to be right, and especially because of the way it ends, it makes the main character look like he was really wrong. But at the same time, Frank Darabont actually had a different type of ending in mind. At the very end, he sees a truck come by and has Melissa McBride's character, who leaves earlier on in the movie to go back to where her daughter is, and she's still alive. But his original ending had the people from the grocery store still alive on the truck, but he wasn't able to get them out there because they had already wrapped the other actors. But that would have made a really big implication on whether the characters were right in staying at the supermarket, because all you had to do was stay there, and bad shit that happens at the end wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I actually really like the McBride's character, because it reminds me of several other movies where you have these group of people who can't come to, all their differences collide, and they can't work together for a similar solution. And all she wants to do at the very beginning is she wants someone to help her get to her home, to get to her kids. It's a very simple concept. But when nobody does, it seals the fate of everyone else. Everyone in that store only cares about themselves and nobody else. And then that seals all their fates. And she's the one you see at the very end, the only one who really survives without having sacrificed anything, because she's with her two kids.
I feel like Thomas Jane's character is, obviously he's interested in getting back to his wife, but he's also interested in saving his son. And he does seem to be genuinely, most of the people who he tries to help, he does seem, and of course the character lives at the end, but after a lot of sacrifices, obviously. But
yeah, I also find it interesting about the kind of going back against the whole religious versus science talk, is that it's I think it rewatching stuff again made me think about the other Stephen King, The Stand, a little bit of
Hmm.
similar ideas of that, of religious versus not on that.
Oh, he does that a lot. You know, you just look at Silver Bullet and the freaking werewolf's a priest who's conflicted.
Right.
He loves to play with that stuff in his novels, religion versus science versus everything else. I kind of almost think he's like this closet religious person who has some type of religious upbringing. Stephen King, if you're listening to this, I don't know what your background is, dude, but we all see this in your stories, and it actually makes your stories much better. So keep doing what you're doing. Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but that, I mean, that aspect, it is. I think it is kind of annoying. I think when it gets to that point, where especially when the a lot of the characters start to side with Marcia Gay Harden's character.
mhm.
It's become it's very irritating to a certain degree. You know, but I mean, it works. But it makes you really dislike that character, and then later on when she dies, it's almost like a clapping moment. You know what I'm saying? She kind of takes it what she's doing a little too far. She might have a little bit of something there that could have helped people, but I think that the way that she uses it to make for the purpose of power, she uses it for her to become more powerful, you know, and to be in charge. Where that's something she's been waiting for. It seems like for a long time, and no one's taken her serious, and suddenly they are, and she kind of
Mhm.
lets the power go to her head.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think up until that moment, she was seen as like I said, and I think Toby Jones tells tells the new teacher, what's her face? Shit.
Is it Laurie Holden's character? Is it?
Laurie Holden's character, yeah, because she's the new teacher in town, and she asks that question about Miss Carmody, and then Toby Jones tell her she's the town religious nut, or it's
Yeah.
not those exact words, but something very similar to that, and that's how you see her at the very beginning. So when she has her just of her come to Jesus moment, where everything that she says is actually coming to light, and people start to follow her, that is a sense of power. That means that everything that she's been doing her entire life actually has meaning. Until, of course, she gets shot twice by Toby
Well,
Jones.
yeah. Well, I mean, the people who are on her side seem like they're continuing down that same path even after she's dead, though.
Yeah.
So which she does even has like lasting effects. And if I mean, we don't know what happens to the people in the supermarket in this version. If the way he originally was thinking about doing it would happen, it would have told a lot more about that. But I like it. I like the open endingness of it, where you
Mm.
don't know what happens to the people who are left at the store. You don't know whether they survived or not. I think it's almost better that they don't, in a way, because at that point you don't really like them anymore because of them siding with her and against the main character. But not that he was necessarily right, but I think that was it's a very human reaction not to want to be involved with human sacrifices, you know, because it seems, I mean, I mean, it could be something that's happening, but it's kind of weird that they jump to that conclusion that you know, they're not familiar with these extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings, so they don't know for a fact they want sacrifices. I mean, they're definitely wanting to eat them, I guess, or whatever they're doing to them. But
Well, also keep in mind that Miss Carmody and them had not seen the giant crab monster that gets them towards the very end of the movie, or the giant behemoth
yeah,
that every other character loses hope at when they see that damn creature. You know, the Lovecraftian behemoth that kind of puts everyone to a stopping point and says, "Oh shit, the whole world's fucked up. There is no hope left in here. We should just kill ourselves."
Yeah,
so
because
you say the yeah.
that
Go
was
ahead.
that was a good thing. That was one thing too. The movie did good about the fact that, again, you don't know. It's a lot of times with these big horror movies, like invasion style type stuff, where you don't know. All right, is this just happening in this area? Is it the whole world? And that was another good kind of like suspense of knowing, like, again, it's like, what's all going out there in the world. We don't know what's going out. Is it just around this area or not?
Well, you see in the third act, right before they meet the behemoth, you do see the downed highway sign as they're traveling. So something huge had to knock down that large sign
Wait,
that they hadn't seen yet.
Yeah, by the time
wait,
we
I
get
think
to
Phil,
that
I
act,
think yeah.
the characters do realize more is going on, but
Yeah.
before that, the audience and the characters don't know to the extent what's all going on.
No.
I think I think the inside of that store looks really cool. I like the way there's so many characters in there as well. And there's some characters you don't even see until later on. They just pop up out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
You know,
But
I agree. Go ahead. I want you to say that.
What?
No, I said I
No,
want you to say it.
yeah.
Oh,
Me or
okay.
Philip? Is Philip going to say
You.
something? I don't know. You're pointing to him, but it's yeah.
I'm saying it too,
No,
but I keep
yeah.
forgetting my orientation
Yeah,
on you and your
yeah,
orientation is
yeah.
different.
No, I mean it's just like when they first get to that store, it just you look at a movie like this and you think they could have went really small with the amount of characters in that store and it may have been as effective, but the fact that they get there and it's like a really busy supermarket and there's just I mean I always forget that when when I was watching it again, I was like forgot there was like that many people when they first get to the store because I'm just thinking about how. I mean, and it does, and they don't kill everybody like they do in a lot of movies. It's like maybe they get in there and there might be 10 people in there, and then they kill one person every like so many minutes until you got down to the last 2 or 3 people. But when they leave the store, a lot of them are still in there alive.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I'm just saying it makes it more interesting because you're not sometimes in some aspects because you're not like you're not down to like 1 or 2 people like where only one of them's going to survive. You don't know. It doesn't become that.
No,
Become
I agree
alien
with
in
you.
a supermarket.
My impression, and you guys can correct me on this or not, but my impression was when I'm watching this movie again and seeing how many people are actually in the store at the beginning versus how many are at the end. I think my impression is that at the very beginning you see Miss Carmody as like the lone person among a group of people that are completely different. And in that group of completely different people, you have 2 factions. You have the people who are from that town and the people who are not from that town, which includes the Andre Braugher character. Now, once Andre Braugher takes his people out, then you're left with the people who is Miss Carmody and then all the normal people. But then the science is kind of killed in the movie once Andre Braugher's group is gone and logic is gone. And then as you're watching this film, you see all these people from the normal group that's not Miss Carmody slowly coming over there. So that by the end of the film, when you have the 6 characters who are leaving the store, everybody else is now part of Mrs. Carmody's group. And then their group is now only 6 people. And when you're watching the movie, no one's going to survive that. Laurie Holden's character repeated, she says that she just can't believe that any of this would happen in a civilized world. Well, and Toby Jones's character says when you take away, computers and the lights and everything else, everything goes crazy. Everyone, people go crazy. They start believing in stuff that's not there. And then their belief is justified by these giant monsters that just come in and kill people. And then Miss Carmody says it's Jesus or it's God's wrath coming down. It's what was it? Shit. The religious thing where everyone dies. Shit, I can't think of it.
Was it it was a wrath or hang on. No, white. It's the revolutions, right? Revolutions.
The Revelations.
Revelations, yeah.
Right now, us are getting this right. We're all of our religious watchers are going to hate us for this one. Yes. Shit. So, your point, Dave, when you're thinking that Miss Carmody's thought process may actually have a little bit of truth. Well, it would be truth if people believed it's true. And by the end of the movie, that's what everyone believes, and except for these 6 people. And of course, Thomas Jane believes in his group when they see the behemoth, they believe that there is no hope. The world is Mrs. Carmody's ideal of the world being gone God's wrath has hit the earth, there's no hope. So why go on? That's the only way to justify how everything unravels by the end of the film. There is no hope. This has affected everything. Giant monsters everywhere. We're going to die any fucking way. There's spiders out there that's going to kill us. Fucking hornet-like things that are going to sting us. What point is there? Their hope is gone. This is the Revelations, or the time of Revelations or shit. They're gonna all
yeah. It seems like seems like end times for sure. And but I do with the main. It's hard to me. It's like if you side with her in this instance, you are kind of giving up, because what's going to happen? She thinks they have to sacrifice somebody to survive, and it's like there's always going to be somebody who's going to have to be sacrificed, and it's like if you want to get on the side where you might be the next sacrificial victim, it doesn't sound like a good side, It's like, to me, it's like I feel that trying to at least try to run, and get out of there like they do, but
well, they do.
I think staying put seems to be maybe safer for a little while, but at the same time, it does seem like they could eventually break into the store and kill everybody.
Well, yeah, that's I forget which character makes that point that it's just a glass that's keeping them out.
Right.
It's not reinforced. It's just a glass. Like they can literally come in at just about any time they want to, but they're like little ants to these monsters from the other world. They're inconsequential. So.
And ironically, they don't know this is going to happen, but eventually the army is able to get rid of the whole thing, But so if they would have just waited another day, everything would have been fine, But maybe they didn't. Maybe they didn't have time to wait another day. If they got through that glass, everything would be over,
If logic had just told everyone to wait.
Yeah.
Because you got to keep in mind that this only takes place over the course of 3 days? Like society breaks down that fast when you take technology and stuff away, and as the movie plays it.
It's not even technology though, because you're being raided by these creatures that are actively killing other people, and you are in danger of being killed by them yourself in a horrific, gruesome way.
Dave, you brought up a good point about the whole movie in general in terms of the visual effects. Now, I saw the movie when it originally came out, but you saw it at 4K, so I'm hoping that looks really good. And Philip, you just saw it regularly. What did you think about the visual effects for the film?
It's it's a little it's a combination of the designs themselves are some of them are really great. Like it really was like some of the designs, like the pterodactyl and like the behemoth and the spider, like a lot of the designs themselves are still really cool coming today. I know the director wanted to make sure that he made unique creatures, and I think he did a good job of that. But it does suffer from, the movie came out in 2007. It does suffer a little bit from a lot of the CGI doesn't look the best nowadays and stuff. But, that's kind of unavoidable to a point with a lot of movies, especially during that time with the CGI. It's, it's going to be what it's going to be, but
even now, if they don't have the right budget, they could still look very similar to what they did then. It's all about how much money you have. This has been on the CGI.
Which is funny because, fun fact, originally, so the budget they end up getting was 18. Frank,
he had to cut it down. It was his budget was different.
Yeah, he was offered a 30K budget, but the producer offered him that only if he changed his ending, and he refused. And he said, "Nope, I'll take the pay cut."
Yeah, I do remember that. I do remember him having to redo, probably go back and do a rewrite because they cut his budget down. I'm sure it would have had more monsters in it if he had the original budget, but I actually like it the way it is now. I will agree with both of you in that visual effects in the early 2000s were not the best because everyone became so reliant on CGI, and it was nowhere near what it is now. So going back and watching those early 2000 movies, they're going to have that problem, which is why I wanted to know how it looked on 4K from you, Dave, because I have a standard DVD release of the movie. I'm not. I will agree with you from our earlier conversation that watching it in black and white does hide a lot of those issues. You don't notice them as much because it's in black and white, and it looks really good in black and white. But I do believe that some of the special effects does suffer because of where we are now with visual effects.
Well, yeah, when I was watching it in 4K, I actually thought that they were real shit coming out of the screen. Not really, but I didn't really.
Well, no, your honest opinion, because that's the thing.
No. It still look. It looked. I mean, everything looks a lot better in 4K, obviously. But sometimes when they got the SD, or even Blu-ray with some of those effects, they might be more more blurry. It might look a little better, but I think the movie looks better in 4K. Just all the the people's faces. There's more detail. There's more detail even on that sort of stuff. And like the first time I watched this movie, I was really resistant to CGI. I'm kind of like more in tune with it now, especially now that I'm watching an older movie. I'd much rather watch an older movie with that type of thing than a newer movie with CGI. But
yeah,
and there is some practical effects mixed in there. They kind of go hand in hand, and you can sometimes you can see like the tentacle that comes in through the door and takes the cashier. The part of some of those are are real and some of them aren't. Very little of them are real, but it doesn't look that bad. Some of them look worse than others. It looks better than something on the Sci-Fi Channel. There's definitely a lot more detail involved with them. Like you're saying too, the black and white. When you watch it in black and white, I think it helps the effects for sure. I think they definitely look more. In the black and white makes it feel like an older movie in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we couldn't do. It's funny because now with Godzilla -1 like had its black and white cut that they released and stuff, which you could do now. But I think back then, if he actually had tried to do that, I don't think audience would have been receptive for that idea.
Well, I think if they threw out the Godzilla -1 in black and white first, I don't think it would have gone over very good.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's very true.
And like I was telling Dave, and I can't remember if you were here when we were discussing it, they did the same thing with Mad Max Fury Road too. It became this thing where we had these alternate versions that were in black and white of certain movies. But I don't recall any of those going to the theater until Godzilla -1 or minus color. Because I did not look at the figures to see how well that version actually did. And I don't even know if they separated the figures. So it'd be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Successful. I mean,
I'm sorry, man. I kind of something happened to my headphones, but what were you talking about?
I was saying how interesting it would be to find out what the actual box office figures were for Godzilla minus color when it came out, to see if it was a successful experiment when they released it. It'd be interesting because if it was successful, we might see more movies like that. I guarantee if they did Lord of the Rings in black and white, I guarantee everybody would go see that shit again at the theater.
Lord of the Rings in black and white. A movie that kind of used this sort of mist stuff first. You ever see the Crawling Eye or the Trollenberg Terror?
I have not seen either one of those. They are on my.
No, it's the same movie. It's
the
same Crawling
movie?
Eye. Yeah, the Trollenberg Terror. It's two different names for the same movie. And that's the movie I saw when I was a kid, and it kind of scared me a little bit. I was pretty young. It was on TV, and there's these mountain climbers climbing up this mountain, and there's this fog. One of them goes up, and suddenly the guys, one of their bodies like falls down without its head on there, and because it's like this crawling eye in the mist up there. Kind of like the John Carpenter kind of cites that as a, for the fog, and Stephen King kind of got that kind of mist idea from that in the fog.
Yeah, but the original John Carpenter fog was all practical effects, whereas the remake was all digital effects. I wonder what they did with this movie.
So yeah, but this is actually kind of interesting what they did with the mist. It was mostly practical. Some of it was CGI, but they had a sound stage where they shot the exterior of the shopping center at a real shopping center, and a little bit of towards the doors from the outside, and a few shots from inside, where, like when the army guys drive up and park and stuff like that. But most of it was shot on a soundstage where they recreated the supermarket from scratch. I think they said about 5 or 6 weeks. They did a whole supermarket in the soundstage on one side of it. On the then there's got the glass in the middle, and on the other side you had the fake parking lot. Which during the day, what they did, they took a picture of the parking lot, the real parking lot, and then they blew it up really big on like a 20 foot like picture of the parking lot, so it looked like there was really a parking lot out there. So all that was done in house while they were shooting, and then for that same part of the parking lot set, they filled it up with mist. Once the mist comes in pretty early, then after that it's just mist filling in, like just a fog. And so when they're doing that door shot with the door opens and the tentacles come in, the mist comes in and out. They figured out, the guy who was doing the special effects for that figured out how to control that with the temperature of the room. He would raise or lower the temperature of the room to get the mist to stay in or out of the door for that part. So.
Okay.
But if it does something crazy, if the mist does something real fucking crazy, then it's obviously going to be CGI, It's,
oh shit! But that's how he keeps the budget down on this one. You don't see a whole bunch. It's all in the grocery store. It's all character tension.
Well, also he said too that he was trying to, if he made all of it CGI, that he was afraid it was going to look too pretty. Like the fog was going to look too pretty with it, so he tried to do a mix between the two.
Yeah,
it would look too pretty, huh?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, CGI kind of looks clean. Like I always picture this movie, if they had done these effects in this movie for all the creatures practically, like John Carpenter's The Thing, it would probably hold up a whole hell of a lot better. It would have taken a hell of a lot more time with all these damn creatures, especially with the spider sequences and the giant fucking monsters exterior. But I think that I think it'd have a better reputation than what it does.
So let's talk about the ending, since we've alluded to it. Who wants to say what happens? I don't really want to say it because
So basically, at the end, Thomas Jane and some of the other survivors, I think it's
including his son,
him and son and 3 other survivors. They end up leaving the market, and they were getting away, and basically the car runs out of gas, and they see this giant behemoth coming toward them. So at this point they think, all right, this is it, we're going to die. So Thomas Jane's character ends up getting a gun throughout the movie, and he decides that we're going to go out on our own terms. So he ends up shooting everyone with the idea that he was going to be the last one left. And then the mist disappears and the army shows up, kind of being like, hey, we're here and stuff. And basically it ends very grim of like, he realizes if he had just waited a couple more moments, he wouldn't have had to shoot anyone. Like they all would have been alive if he had waited just a couple more seconds for the army to show up.
There's this meme I've seen online that has like a picture of all of them sitting in the car, and it's like, this is how impatient I am. You seen that one?
I have not, but I'm not surprised, because the whole movie is about there's this running theme of hope that these characters have. They all have, they all. This is a weird film where they keep doing, like Thomas Jane's character keeps doing things, hoping that they'll turn out better. When he goes to the store next door, the drugstore, to get drugs to help the guy who's in extreme pain, he's hoping that he can save this guy, or at least alleviate some of his pain. But instead, half the people end up getting killed by another creature that they didn't know existed. And he almost loses his life. But he has this thing where he doesn't want to leave his son, what do you call it, alone or abandoned, which is his whole thing. He doesn't want to leave his son alone, and he can only trust certain people. You gotta remember, Laurie Holden's character, he trusts with his son, but the second woman who was with her, he trusts with her son, and her son gets away from her, and he almost gets killed by the pterodactyl thing. And then she ends up committing suicide because she kills herself due to guilt. The same with the soldiers. Soldiers kill themselves because they know that what they are doing up at the Arrowhead Project is what caused all this, and they don't have any hope that they're going to ever get out of it. They see the bigger picture. This is an alternate world that we fucked up, and now it's in our world. They don't see that there's a way out of it. They kill themselves. There's this sense of hope or lack thereof that follows through the entire film with some of these characters, and it follows with the Thomas Jane character. Like, he's seen the soldiers who committed suicide. He's seen the woman who commits suicide. It's a flowing thing throughout the whole movie. When they are forced to leave the grocery store, that sense of decency and hope with all the people that they called friends is gone. So it's just those 6 people or 5 people now. 6 people, because they have 5 bullets left, I believe. That's it. It's just them. And when they see the behemoth first, and that is the thing that prompts them. Is like, holy shit, there is no end to this fog. This mist. There is no end, and there are things out there.
That behemoth, that behemoth is really tall. It was like a big dinosaur with, like, but it's even bigger than that. It's like,
it towers
really
over
good design.
And then after seeing that, because they literally stopped the car to gaze at this thing, and all their hope is gone. So they just keep going, hoping that they run out of gas and they can see the end of the mist, but they never do. And
they're hoping they can drive out of it. But
they're hoping they can drive out of it. But when you're stuck in that mist with no hope, and when you step out, there's crab monsters, flying pterodactyl monsters, giant behemoths, and everything else, stuff that you can't even shoot or kill adequately. Their hope is gone. Yeah. Like, they all come to this same conclusion. It's tragic with the son, of course, because the son doesn't understand any of this. He doesn't see his mother embedded in the house with the spider webs everywhere. He's asleep when they come to the house. Yeah. He doesn't see any of that. He's
it's fairly horrific too. And there was no way out of it, not until they like, she's at the house and she's in the house, and then she gets killed by the spiders. No matter where they went, that was inside the fog, they would have eventually been killed by the creatures.
By something. And that's a depressing thing towards the end of the movie. But that's something that they have throughout the entire film. That you have a sense of characters who lose hope and they commit suicide or sacrifice themselves, or like Andre Braugher's character, think they're better than everyone else. Yeah. Like the bad boy does the same thing. The bad boy thinks that he's better than the old guys. I could turn on I can clear out the generator. I could do it. Just sit your ass down. He tells not those words, but he more or less tells what's his face's character to sit his old ass down. And what does he do? He's the first one to get killed, and he gets ripped up like badly. Those tentacles come out and they rip at his chest and they drag him out underneath that damn garage thing.
That's very, very H.P. Lovecraft too. Like, that particular monster. Some of it is kind of really reminiscent of H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh yeah.
It definitely was an inspiration for a lot of the creature designs.
Oh yeah. Most definitely. Tentacles everywhere on that behemoth. Tentacles are the first thing you see, and tentacles are the last thing you see. And it's a tragic ending that he kills everyone and can't kill himself, and he then goes to try and commit suicide by just stepping out the car and letting whatever get out there get him. Like, he has no hope left. Like, it is a very depressing movie when you think about it. Like, dude, this is a movie made up of people who think they're better than everyone else and they get killed. And that's Miss Carmody's the same thing. She thinks she's better than everyone else, and that God's on her side, and she gets 2 bullets in her eventually. Yeah. It's a running theme throughout the whole movie. It's a depressing fucking movie. Don't get me wrong. Like, I rewatched it. I saw a lot of this the first time around, but you don't really delve into how depressing this movie really is until you rewatch it several times. And you're like, damn, this movie is a fucking downer. Like, you start thinking about it, this whole movie is a downer,
Yeah, the ending certainly is, but I do think there's a lot of energy in the movie as far as the performances and just the way that, I mean, but it is ultimately that's the ending is very it's bad enough that he had to kill them all, but then he has to live with he killed them for no reason. He could have waited a few more minutes, but I mean, he didn't know that.
I'm personally a fan of I like sometimes those depressing endings. I like when the endings are bittersweet, like I think it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003, like when like Leatherface wins because it looks like the last victim's going to make it, and then suddenly a chainsaw comes from behind and kills the girl, and then Leatherface gets out and walks back, and it's just, and that's it, and it's just like I love, that's why I really like this ending, because like it's nice sometimes, because a lot of times there is the whole like, oh, everything worked out in the end and blah blah blah. So when it's like, no, like, again, that's why it's so memorable, because I think if they had gone with the original ending from the book, I don't think it'd be as memorable for people than the ending that they changed it to.
Of course, I guarantee you, Frank Darabont did not want to do another fucking Cujo, where everything comes out the way everything comes out with a happy ending at the end of Cujo, which is not the book.
Well, yeah, I think I appreciate the ending. I don't think it's the most enjoyable ending, but I do appreciate it. And I think that they should have went with this ending over what everybody just lives or whatever. I don't know what or some, but I think it is a very, very downer ending, and it's kind of it is kind of a sting, it is sting. You got to think about.
Yeah, well, it reminds me of the ending for It Follows. If you remember the ending for It Follows, you have the one male character who's been trying to get with the female character the entire fucking film because she's in love with her. But by the time that he's forced to have sex with her to transfer this fucking the it thing, I can't remember what they actually call it. You see that scene with them walking together at the very end, but she knocks his hand away because they don't know if the people who come after them will ever make them really safe from experiencing the thing again. And everything that they've gone through makes it so that they could never have a real relationship in after that. And it's the really
and he won't go and have sex with any prostitutes to pass it on. So it's like, so he's kind of submitted himself to that fate of just running for the rest of his life.
Exactly. And it's not it's not a happy ending. You're watching it, shit, this is fucking depressing. All he wanted to do is get with her.
Yeah. Well, but that's what he wanted to do. But I think he just did it to help her. But
yeah,
I think that at the same time he didn't want to put anyone else in danger. But you're always passing it along. Even if he went and had sex with somebody else, if he wasn't tracking that person, like, it could get that person, and then you're back on the hook. And
So
let's just hope that shit never happens for real.
I love those type of endings. I could appreciate when they do a happy ending like Cujo. I think you and me, Philip, talked about Cujo before.
Yeah.
I don't think audiences would have been prepared at the time Cujo was made for a depressing ending like the original book. I think audiences now in the 2000s were perfectly fine with depressing endings like that to an extent.
We're jaded nowadays.
We are jaded, and I guarantee you today we love those type of endings. Just look at the box office hit Talk to Me. Is it Talk to Me? Yeah, Talk to Me.
Yes.
That's a fucking depressing ass ending at the end, you know. And people were satisfied with that. That movie was a huge box office success for, I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm not going to say A24 again. It could be wrong. I lose track of all the. I lose track of
this. I think it's hard though. I don't mind like a messed up ending. Sometimes it's harder when it's like the kid gets killed. Like if Cujo, the kid dies in the book, that would have been a tough thing to see in the movie. And same thing with this, where he has to shoot his own son. He's very young. He's probably like 12 or something.
Yep.
That's what makes it hard. If it was like his wife instead of the son, and he didn't have a son, it wouldn't have the same impact as it does.
No, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. And we've talked a lot about The Mist now, including the ending, which we really don't ever do that often. We don't delve too deeply into a lot of the movies. We want you to actually watch them. Everyone out there who's listening to this podcast.
Well, I mean, I think in order to really analyze a lot of movies, especially ones like this, you have to talk about the ending and how it relates to the rest of everything else. Even if it spoils the movie for who's ever watching it, in order to understand why some parts of the movie happens, you have to talk about the ending to a certain degree.
And the thing is, when you have a film that has many layers like this one does, I think it's easier to talk about stuff like this. Now, we all know we've talked about some movies on our show that don't necessarily have any layers to them, but we kind of enjoy them regardless. You could get the brain. What was it? I think when I did the conversation with Evil Dead 2. We're not talking about a well-written film here, but one hell of a fun-ass fucking movie from beginning to end. You don't mind giving away all the details to that movie because, one, we think everyone in the world has already seen Evil Dead 2. So talking about that film is easier than, say, talking about The Mist, where you gain a little something with each new viewing. So even though we're telling and revealing details about the end of the movie and talking about the themes, we're hoping that when people re-watch the movie, that they'll be able to see some of the stuff that we've been talking about and appreciate the movie more if they didn't before. I guarantee you, there's people out there who hate The Mist. Philip over there saying, "It's all right."
I think upon multiple viewings, it is better, upon the second viewing of it, or third or fourth, to me anyway. But I think the first time I saw it, like I wasn't, I like I was saying before, I really like the documentary handheld feel to it and the energy that's presented within the movie. It kind of reminds me of the way that the show Succession's shot. You can just feel that they're. The way the actors act with the camera and stuff like that, you can just kind of feel that. But at the time, first time I saw it, it seemed out of place, especially for a movie that I wasn't used to seeing all handheld like that.
Interesting. Yeah, because I would say that type of aesthetic was mostly used for television, and this is before Frank Darabont goes off to do The Walking Dead. So, that's a very interesting.
I think it makes you feel more like you're in the store with the people, the way that the cameras are in this. It makes you feel more, because a documentary in a lot of ways feels real because it is shooting something real. So it is shot similar to a documentary would be shot, even though it's a little bit more control over it than a documentary would have. But it does have that same type of feel to a lot of the movie.
Yeah. No, I agree. I always liked the aesthetic of the movie when I first saw it because it did put me right into the film. And the way it's framed when it's because it's a grocery store. I made comment of the opening shot when Thomas Jane's character is first going into the grocery store, and you get a quick glimpse of all the players that will have an impact on the story as it unfolds, and they release little bits of information that was going to be pertinent to the story as you're watching it, which I thought was really, really, really well done. And then I kind of forgot that he actually does that a lot throughout the entire film, because it's a grocery store and there's a lot of people in this grocery store. But even though you see a lot of these people who are background characters, some of these characters come back to be pertinent to the story later on. Some of them as victims.
Yeah. He gets a lot. He gets a lot out of the actors too, like just the nuances with the expressions and stuff like that. There's a lot between for even like the smaller characters get some decent moments. You know.
I mean, yeah. I agree with you, 100%. All right, so any final thoughts or words about the film? We're gonna start with you, Philip.
I mean, basically, it's again the ending is, I mean, again, a lot of times this is one of those stories that, like, again, even if you know about the ending, it's still worth seeing and stuff. So it's not, again, for me personally, not one of my favorite Stephen King stories, but it's still a very solid movie that it'd be actually kind of interesting to see it get remade today and stuff.
It has been remade in a really horrible television show.
Well,
horrible, like god awful television show.
Yeah, I mean theatrically, but but it's still it still was very, very decent, and it's funny too because it was the movie came out. There was a lot of Walking Dead alumni like that were in that before the Walking Dead happened, which is very funny.
Yeah, I think he originally wanted Thomas Jane as the Rick character in The Walking Dead. I think I remember reading that somewhere.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Wasn't able to do it. I think he's like he's on another show like Hung or something where he wasn't able to do it. He was committed to something else.
Well,
he would have been good though. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised he got Andrew Lincoln since he's a British actor who came over here to do the damn show. So, yeah. How about you, Dave? Any final thoughts on The Mist?
I don't know. I think I said everything I need to say about it. But I would if you're gonna watch it, I'd recommend watching it on that 4K. I think it does a lot of justice as far as seeing seeing more detail, other than maybe the special effects. But it does help see makes the movie look more. It looks more theatrical looking.
Okay, so I've said plenty on The Mist, and everyone out there knows that I'm a huge fan of The Mist. I think it's one of the better Stephen King adaptations out there. It's going to be hard to top this as either a monster film or one of my favorite Lovecraft inspired movies. But I do enjoy the aspect of a film in which you put a bunch of characters with different backgrounds together and just watch them explode. This is an aesthetic that I come back to a lot, mostly because of my huge enjoyment of George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, which is the exact same concept, just done on a smaller level in a different type of apocalypse, since it's the zombie apocalypse. But I tend to really enjoy films in which characters with different backgrounds are thrown into the same situation, and they can't learn to get past their differences in order to come to one cohesive solution to their problem. If all three of these groups had actually sat down and listened to each other, this would have been completely different. Andre Braugher, and if you're not paying that much attention, the whole thing about Andre Braugher's character and the Thomas Jane character, the very, very beginning of the movie, is the fact that they had a lawsuit against each other about a damn tree that Andre Braugher's character refused to cut down. And that started their whole animosity and the way that they can never work together, and they're neighbors. And that's sort of what I see in this movie. I see a bunch of characters who just can't come to a consensus on how to deal with this problem, and all shit breaks down. Everyone dies. Well, everyone dies in Night of the Living Dead. In this movie, we don't know what the hell happens to these characters. But that's what.
Thomas Jane's character survives, and so does Melissa McBride's for sure, and her daughter. But
what a time!
We don't know.
The military is driving them directly into where the monsters are. The
military might not really want any survivors either. They may not want them.
It's the military. They want to keep their secrets. But that's kind of how the way I approach this film, and one of the reasons why I probably gravitated to it more than a lot of other people. And when I come across films like this, where very similar, I really enjoyed this aspect because for me, seeing a bunch of different types of people come together and either they come across their differences to achieve a goal or they don't, I think is one of the greatest types of stories that teaches us how to be better humans. So that's my tidbit.
Kind of teach you to stay away from friggin' crazy ass humans too, though. I think.
Think about it. This is the exact same concept as Breakfast Club, when you have a bunch of different people from different cliques who come together during fucking what do they call it? Detention for a similar goal, but they all don't work with each other or even know each other when they're in detention. This is a very similar story aspect that's done over and over and over again, and either they come together like they do in the Breakfast Club or they don't, like in Night of the Living Dead. They can't come to a consensus. Everyone's on their own little faction, and they all die. I love these type of stories. I will always love these type of stories because I just love seeing lots of different people get together and shit either hits the fan or, everybody has a happy ending. But with that, I want to thank my guests for joining me on Conversations in Horror, in which we talked about The Mist, in which a bunch of people come together and they cannot agree on one consensus, and therefore giant monsters from a different dimension come in and start killing people very miraculously. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. I want you to check out some of our previous episodes. You can find them anywhere on Spotify, YouTube, any of the amazing podcast apps out there. Also, make sure to check out our other sister podcast, Conversations in 4Color, which is on our Patreon supported page only. And don't forget to check out all the other amazing things we have coming up next as you become a worthwhile subscriber to Conversations in Horror. Thank you and have a pleasant day. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.